Beyond battlefields, the inescapable interconnectedness of our world and the futility of war. Hello, my name is Dino Viper. Thank you so very much for joining me on Elevate Your Life. War. As a military veteran, I have to say that war is a disturbing thing. You don't realize the impact you have on people's lives when you're in their country or when you invade their world. I remember as if it was yesterday, standing on this beautiful, beautiful building that this architect was talking about building. And as we stood in his penthouse and we looked over the city of Panama, he pointed out over there is where the U.S. military invaded our country. And this is where they crossed over here. And he said that there was military helicopters dropping down with soldiers. And, from that perspective, you realize that even though they were not involved with Noriega, they were still affected by this world and by this war. And that was just an acquisition. It wasn't even a war. So we realize that as a planet, we are all interconnected, as we see in the birthplace of religion. We see it in conflicts in Europe. We see that even the neighboring countries of these war zones are being affected. Their economies are being affected. The psyches are being affected. Everybody is affected because we're all interconnected. And even now with the internet and everything else, we saw as things were happening in Turkey and in Egypt, how important it was for internet messages to get out and people to see what was really going on. So it becomes almost futile, except for the few, but it becomes futile because we're all affected by war. So definitely, I spoke about this before, the Law of Oneness, and there's a great video on YouTube if you care to see it. But let me see if I can dive a little deeper into this subject today. War, in all its myriad forms and definitions, has been a contrast part of human civilization. From the tribal conflicts in ancient times to modern geopolitical tensions, it's an undeniable aspect of our history. However, in an increasingly connected and interdependent world, the concept of war becomes not only one more complex, but also more futile. This perspective stems from an understanding of the law of oneness, which asserts that everything in the universe is intrinsically connected and that actions undertaken in one area can have far-reaching impacts elsewhere. The law of oneness and its relevance. The law of oneness is a fundamental principle of many philosophies, religions, and spiritual traditions. At its core, it suggests that everything in the universe, seen or unseen, is interconnected. This idea is not only spiritual, but also scientific, finding support in theories like quantum entanglement, where two particles, regardless of distance, can instantaneously affect each other. The law, therefore, implies that our actions can create ripples of impacts, touching individuals and communities beyond our immediate surroundings. War, a violation of the law of oneness. In the context of the law of oneness, war represents a destructive violation. It fractures the inherent unity of the world, sowing discord and division where there could be harmony and collaboration. By focusing on the differences and disputes that separate us, war diminishes our collective potential and hampers the progress of human civilization as a whole. More to this point, in an increasingly globalized world, the repercussions of war can resonate far beyond the immediate battlefield. For example, refugees fleeing conflict zones can put pressure on neighboring countries, potentially destabilizing entire regions. The environment impacts of war, from deforestation to pollution, can contribute to climate change and biodiversity loss affecting ecosystems globally. The futility nature of war. The futile nature of war is further underscored when we consider the shared challenges humanity faces in the 21st century. From climate change to pandemics, from economic inequality to digital divide, these are problems without borders, issues that no single nation can resolve independently. These global challenges necessitate global solutions built on cooperation and mutual understanding, not conflict. War in this context becomes a resource draining diversion, pulling away vital resources, focus, and human potential that could be directed towards addressing these shared challenges. The cost of war in terms of human lives, economic loss, environmental damage are colossal, and their effects reverberate through our interconnected world, impacting all of us, directly or indirectly. Let's move to a more cooperative world. In recognizing our inherent interconnectedness, we are presented with an opportunity to shift our perspective, to move away from conflict and towards cooperation. It requires a global paradigm shift from zero-sum game of war to infinite potential of collective problem solving. This doesn't imply utopian vision, where conflicts of interest cease to exist. Instead, it envisions a world where disputes are resolved through dialogue, diplomacy, and international institutions that uphold justice and peace. It envisions a world that understands the futility of war in an interconnected world and chooses unity over division, cooperation over conflict, and understanding over ignorance. Let me sum up this topic of the Law of Oneness up today. As the world continues to evolve, becoming ever more intertwined, the Law of Oneness becomes more relevant. It underscores the deep-seated interconnectedness between us all, transcending boundaries and underscoring the universal impacts of our actions. War, in this context, appears increasingly futile, its cost too high, and its effects too far-reaching. By embracing our interconnectedness, we can chart a course away from the destructiveness of war towards a world that values unity, peace, and collective prosperity. These challenges of the 21st century demand no less from us. It's our collective responsibility and our interconnected beings on this planet to strive for this shared vision. I understand that people feel that war may be necessary. I understand this. But I think what is more necessary is that we look and evaluate each other on this planet as one being, as one body, that we could look at crossing borders, holding hands, and really looking towards a more collaborative environment that benefits us all, that raises up society to a more beneficial, more peaceful world that we want our children to enjoy, our children's children, and for other generations to grow up in a world that is healing with peace and love. That's one of my greatest hopes. I hope that you find peace and calm and tranquility in your own mind today, that whatever conflicts you're facing, you put aside and find the peace and resolve that you need in this day so that you are not at war with yourself. It begins with you. My name is Dino Viper, love and light. If you like what you heard today, please like, favorite, share, send it to someone that you care about, or visit www.dinoviper.com. Or you can download our app at Dino Viper in the App Store. Download it today. We update it every day. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope to see you on the next one.